Today is March 31st, the Tuesday of the 5th week of Lent. Many of you have asked me about Father Suresh Amaraj, the parochial vicar here at Our Lady of the Lake. As you remember, when I came back from my 30-day retreat, he had plans to leave a few days later, and he did on February 20th, planning to return on March 20th. But of course, the coronavirus is everywhere. And as we canceled the public masses here in Oregon, they were doing similar things about the same time there in India, all throughout the country. So we had a chance to visit on the phone. He said the March 20th flight was canceled, so he thought he'd set another date out there for April 16th, thinking that was safe. That was canceled. So he set another date out there, very safe, May 10th, and that was canceled. So right now he doesn't have flight arrangements, but he's very anxious to get back as soon as things are allowed to start planning travel like that again. But I asked him how he's doing if he's anxious. He said, well, things are very strict there. They have a lockdown on the whole country for 21 days. In fact, you can't venture out at all except for groceries and pharmacy or emergency things. In fact, the police are out on the streets asking people, what's your business? And do you have a legitimate reason to be out? So he's staying at the bishop's house, which is a large residence, numerous guest rooms. I think there are 10 priests there right now. And they each say their own private mass and keep the social distancing, 2 meters. But he said also he's not anxious. He says, you know how you were on your silent retreat? I decided I will make this my silent retreat. And he says, I'm very happy. So he's having his own personal retreat there. And I think it's an inspiration. How can we use this time well? Even though we can't gather for the gift of the Eucharist or any gathering for teaching the faith in our school or in our religious education programs or adult education programs. It makes me think of another time, and this was brought to my attention by a brother priest, Father Mark Bachmeyer. It makes me think of a time when we weren't able to practice the faith as Catholics in different countries of the world, like in Ireland when the church was oppressed there. There were masses, but you went to them clandestinely and you could be arrested. Or I think of the Ukraine. In 1946, when the Soviets came, they closed all the churches, arrested bishops and priests, and there were no public masses. In fact, there was no church. The church did not exist. At least it didn't exist on paper. But we do know it existed underground, and people still practiced the faith and received a spiritual communion because it was all that they had. And I think of the Czechoslovakia. I remember watching the Soviet tanks rolling into Prague in 1968. I saw that on the news, and it made me sad. But then when they were finally allowed to come out, the churches reopened in 1989 with the fall of the Soviet communism. Now a new president was elected, Václav Havel, a Catholic. And so for his inauguration, he asked that a mass be celebrated as part of the events that were taking place. One of the details from that mass that I remember hearing about in the news is that as the people gathered in the main square for this huge mass, the children were singing the hymns from memory. The children were singing the hymns from memory, which meant that the underground church was alive and well. I think we can be inspired by them to think, well, okay, this is not political oppression, not religious oppression. It's just a disease we're trying to get under control. And so it's understandable that we have these limitations. But how can we use this time for personal retreat or to grow in the faith or deepen our love for the Eucharist or our appreciation for the day when we can get together and shake hands and hug and be in community and have Bible studies and celebrate the Mass in public? So let's use this time wisely and put it to good use to foster the faith in our hearts so that we appreciate all those gifts, especially our gift of faith, all the more. God bless you.